Can't hear you, Glenn.
Can you hear me, Josh?
Yes.
Okay.
Supervisor McGurty, it looks like you are unmuted, so it might be an issue with your microphone.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. I just changed a camera recently, and it has a microphone that's different than the other one, so my video is nice and crisp.
Good timing, being that it's 4 o'clock.
It looks like we're ready to start. Supervisor Haschak, I guess we can begin our meeting.
Yeah, let's go ahead.
So this has already been a busy day for Supervisor Haschak and I. This is like the third meeting we're in together, so we're very happy to go to opening up our crisis residential treatment facility in Ukiah, which was funded by Measure B, and it's the second facility that Measure B has funded. And I don't know, you want to say anything, Supervisor Haschak, about it? Because you have a longer institutional memory than I do, since you've been on the Board of Supervisors longer.
Well, it was a great grand opening, you know, is second facility, and like we have 4 different programs going on with the Measure B funding, and at the end of January we're going to have that feasibility study done for what might be a potential psychiatric hospital facility. So we got a lot of things going on with that.
I just bring it up because I hear so often you guys aren't doing anything with Measure B, and that nothing could be further from the truth. We're really active with that, and just as with the Drought Committee, we take this very, very seriously, and we're trying to be proactive and get things done. So we're here today to talk a little bit about where we stand right now. And Josh looks like he's in a space capsule in Antarctica, so but I am going to turn the meeting over to him. So.
Well, thank you, supervisors, and really, I'm showing this background really as a reflection of the substantial rain and snowfall we've gotten here in the state of California in the last 3 days or so. This is a picture from this morning up at Palisades, Tahoe, and you know, from what I can tell, the skiing is good, but it also helps with our water supply, which is so critical. Not so much for Mendocino County, this particular snowfall, but I would expect that the mountains north of Ukiah, maybe just east of Willits there, probably got some snowfall as well, which will help in the year ahead. All that being said, we're still in a pretty substantial drought situation. Everybody's monitoring the rainfall and snowfall that's coming in. Latest reports I've been tracking, you know, have us inching closer to about 50% of annual precipitation averages, but we could really stand for another 4 or 5 good storms like we've been having to breathe easier for the coming year. That said, as we know, and we've been talking about a lot over the past 6 months here with this committee, is, you know, 1 year's rainfall does not a water resilient county make. So, you know, it is this kind of multifaceted portfolio of water supply options that we would seek to develop. And, I think that's um, going to be made a lot more feasible by way of actions that you all have taken in funding for this next phase of water agency planning that is just kicking off. And I think the first item on our agenda today is to hear a bit about that work, which is going to be presented by Howard Dashiell from the Department of Transportation and the Water Agency. And then we'll kind of talk a little bit more about other strategic actions that are happening around the county to help make Mendocino more water resilient. So would that be appropriate to hear from Howard now, or would you all like to say anything before we do that?
Well, Josh, if I could chime in for a second.
Sure.
I'd just like to say, we did put this meeting off from last week till this week because the GEI contract goes into effect, and we thought we'd have more information about that, and that's why what Howard's going to talk to right now. But certainly, if anyone was trying to get on the meeting last week and they didn't understand that it had been postponed, we feel, we're sorry about that, and we won't let that happen again.
Yeah, thanks for mentioning that, Supervisor. Indeed, that was a tactical decision that was made on a relatively short notice. We do have some tentative dates for the committee to meet next year. Would that be something we want to cover? Maybe we can do that later on in the meeting.
I think we can do that later. Yes.
Okay. Good, but it looks like Howard's here.
Yes, good evening, Supervisor McGordy, Supervisor Haschek, and Josh. So, briefly, the GEI effort is comprehensive in that, they're looking at a plan and a economic feasibility of reconstituting the standalone water agency, which will do more than just work on drought resiliency, drought response. But we did have our kickoff meeting with the consultant, GEI, and their team. They're developing a survey, and frankly, they're going to, I see we have 15 attendees tonight. I would say that everybody on the list tonight and more, all the people who have been the stakeholders that participated in this meeting that we've been having. I forget what we call this group. I guess it's the Drought Task Force. That's it. They will be contacted by GEI. They have a survey they'll fill out. They'll interview those folks. They'll document water issues and what folks might think a water agency could do, how they would like to interact with a water agency. We're also going to be looking for ways that these partner stakeholders would even throw some funds in the pot to kind of make it all work. So that effort will be moving forward, and we'll, after we get those surveys back and after we get a little farther down the road, we'll give an update to the board, and we will, look at how we proceed once they've got some draft ideas. And I expect to have those, I hope, by February or March. So the board should be getting an update in February or March. We're still getting a schedule from them, exactly what our targets are, but that's about what it is. And the other thing on the list, which is truly drought specific, is the grant writing effort that Larry Walker and Associates is doing on the Mendocino County Emergency Drought Response and Water Supply Project. And they were prepared to submit that this week because it was going to be due, but fortunately it was extended about a month, and it's due now the middle of January. And, that is the big ask, the big wish. I remember we were talking about, could we make the $2 million minimum? I'm looking at their proposed not for this grant, but if they could do all the things that were in there, and I don't think we'll get a grant for all this, but they've really identified about $9 million worth of work we could do. And obviously the public and the board knows about that scope. It was presented to the board last month. But we're really hoping to get additional monitoring. We're hoping to develop some template type agreements. We're hoping to expand the kind of groundwater investigations that have been done for the Ukiah Valley groundwater sustainability plan. So it's quite robust when you do that countywide, and I mean, we're looking at, the Covelo Basin, the Willits Basin, the basins on the Central Coast, from Elk to Fort Bragg, even areas inland that are not in the Upper Russian groundwater sustainability project, the things around Hopland or even north Redwood Valley and some of the stuff over out Reeves Canyon. Really try to get some data. We hope that'll be eligible for this grant, but that truly will be just what it says, a comprehensive drought, a strategic plan, resiliency project. So a little more time on that, and but it's moving along quite well. The consultant is limited to 10 pages, and I've been looking at all 10 pages. Larry Walker pretty much had to cut stuff out to make it fit in 10 pages. So they're a very, very thorough consultant, and I think doing a very good job. So those are my updates on that.
And Howard, if I could jump in here, when might we hear about approval of that grant?
I knew you'd stump me, Supervisor Hatchett. I don't know. I mean, now that the submittal is extended to mid-January, I'm thinking Josh probably knows better on what's the turnaround been from DWR. Josh, do you know?
Well, this is a high priority funding vehicle. So I think that that there was a first round. This is the second round? If I'm
Correct. This is the second round, and they extended the due date to mid-January.
Yeah. So I'd say it hopefully would be within a similar kind of response times we saw with the small community drought relief program, which was 6 weeks to a couple months. Hopefully it would be something that comes quickly because they know situation is dire. I think if it continues to rain more throughout the year, I think the urgency would somewhat diminish. But nevertheless, these are not 1 year episodes we're trying to address. So I know that the water supply and the response to the drought and climate change is a high priority for the governor's administration, and the state agency folks are pretty tuned up. So I would expect a quick response.
And Josh is right. This is going to be an effort. I think it's all got to be wrapped up by 2026. But the point is, I hope the drought is well over before 2026. But this work will be there for going forward, well into the future. One would hope. One would hope this is like a 50-year strategic plan, something like that.
I see we have a comment from Beth Solomon, and she says, when I spoke to DWR recently, they thought the announcements would be made no later than early March. No guarantee, of course, and there will be no phase 3 as was originally planned.
You always count on Elizabeth for having the latest and greatest. She is a dedicated public servant. She does a great job. Thank you, Elizabeth.
Yes. Okay, well, Howard, I guess that wraps up your report then.
Unless there's other questions, yes, that's good for now.
Did you want to see if there was any questions from the attendees on these two items?
Sure.
Anyone with a question on the items could raise your hand in the chat. Seeing none, bring it back. So then we can move along. The next item on our agenda, Howard was efficient in covering the first two in one fell swoop. The next item is called committee status. So the question of, this being organized as an ad hoc committee, has there been discussion yet at the board level to determine, the survivability of this ad hoc committee?
Yeah, I'll say that the board went through the ad hocs on Tuesday, and we are going to continue this ad hoc. So,
Excellent.
we just had a meeting on Monday to talk about, water extraction and the sale of that water and water hauling issues. And so, along with all of the storage and, creating the wide portfolio, I think we also need to look at strategies, and that's what Supervisor McGordy and I are doing. What strategies will help us through future droughts?
Well, we want to get into a cycle of long-term planning in Mendocino County. I think that's something that we haven't done effectively in the past, and we tend to be kind of reactionary because, in part, we have a low population, and it seemed in the olden days we had abundant rainfall. But as we face climate change, we have to start thinking a little bit more strategically about how we go from one year to the next when it doesn't rain properly to provide the water that we need. So I think our ad hoc can help us with this, and it's also on the minds, of course, of the state of California, and a very high priority with the Department of Water Resources. And there's some investment going on right now, so we want to have an opportunity to address as many of the chronic problems that we have in our community as possible and find good solutions. That could mean additional storage, as the Russian River flood control folks are looking at, in North Hensley Creek. So that's an example of a good project. I would love to see something on the coast. I know that Fort Bragg is making some important investments, and we'd hope also that the town of Mendocino would eventually have its own water source, if not a water system, at least a place where they can source water for drought or for their annual issue of wells going dry, that they secure a water source that's there, so they never have to worry about somebody saying, sorry, we've got pressure on the system, and we really can't provide you with water. So these are all things we know are on the list, and we're hoping the ad hoc can initially start the discussions and then maybe help find some solutions, as we've been doing.
Great. I see a question from Jessica. Can you please send me a link to see the current proposal that sounds like went to the board? I guess we'll want to know which proposal you're talking about, Jessica. Maybe Clark can get to that. Well, that's good news that this committee is going to continue. And so we're currently convening on the second Thursdays of the month from 4 to 5:30. Do you expect a calendar adjustment for that in the new year?
No, I don't. We'll just keep that for the time being, I think, if Supervisor McGordy is good with that. And we'll let people know if that changes.
Great. So that would mean then the next meeting of the ad hoc would be January 13th. And I actually charted out the remaining, what do I have here? 6 months or so through June. So I can list them off. I do have, maybe I could share my screen. Maybe that would do it. Let me see here. Give me 1 second. Yeah. Full screen mode. Okay. 1 sec. There we go. Okay. So these are the dates that I have that would be the second Thursday of the month. Can everyone see that? Supervisor Hatchak, can you see that?
Yes, we
Yeah.
can.
Okay. Just for folks looking to put some dates on their calendar, and any adjustments to that, I guess, would be noticed through the county website. So now, being that we've kind of cruised through the first 4 items on today's agenda, we are now at our regional status report phase, which is traditionally a time for folks attending the audience representing different sections of the county to have a few minutes to provide updates on the water status or the drought status around the county. So or it looks like we've got a nice turnout here. I'm seeing a number of familiar names. So let me just kind of, I'm seeing one city manager of a fine village up North County called Willits. I don't know if Brian, you or anyone on your team there wants to give a status report from Willits, as we haven't heard much from you directly at this forum before. How are
Hello,
things
Josh.
in Willits, Brian?
Hello, Josh.
Nice to see your name anyhow.
Yep. Yep. I'm glad this group the subcommittee is going to continue through 22. I apologize. I wasn't following the subcommittee's activities over the last couple of sessions, but I just want to let you know that if we're looking at supplying municipal potable water, our ground production site is running. We have it up and running. It has capacity. So if that is a situation that needs to be considered later this or going into 22, let us know with a formal request and we can present that to the city council.
That's fantastic. So I guess you finally were able to get some pump parts. I know that your pump supply situation was bad.
We got it was funny. We got the parts. It was a filter. It was a drum. It was upgrading couplings. It was basically we had a lot of housekeeping on that apparatus, but it is running now, and it does like to run at about a little over 300 gallons a minute. That is it's a sweet spot for the facility, and we had it operational for several days on continuous spans over the last 3 months. So we're in good shape with that.
And your water quality is turning out to be inside of specs?
Yes, it is.
Good. Yeah, I know there was a little bit of anxiety about that as well. So,
well, that's a different project. That was a different well location, and we backed out of that because we had the ability to. We're going to represent the request to the city council probably in early 22, and it's going to remove the one well that had the traces of arsenic and other contaminants. We can utilize the well that is connected to the ground production plant right now, and the request would be to improve that well or upgrade that well, its capacity and the plumbing or the connection from the well to the facility itself, and then put in a dry well tank system so we can moderate the flow from the production site into our distribution system.
mhm.
Very good. Thanks, Brian, for that update.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for, I'll say, from my perspective, Brian, just working with you and your team this year, it was appreciated that you were, willing and able to jump in actively to these conversations that we were having. Not easy by any means, but, it was appreciated. And also I'd like to acknowledge that, you were one of the early advocates for the mutual aid agreements, establishing those between the cities and the county. And, that was kind of critical step to being able to make, this water hauling project actually viable. So appreciate that local kind of regional engagement and leadership on your behalf, on your end.
As do I, because you stepped up to the plate and were prepared to be a good neighbor when we had community in distress.
So next time, maybe we'll put a note in the city's annual budget for cameras on your laptop so we can see your face in these meetings. But I just like to heckle people for that, so don't take it personally.
No, well, you look like you're sitting up on that ski lift there under about 4 feet of snow with a fluffy jacket and a hat. I mean, that's pushing it there, Josh.
That's thematically appropriate.
All right.
Thanks a lot, Brian. So I'm just kind of going down the list in alphabetical order, calling out folks who may have spoken before I know are engaged in the stuff around the county, unless you all have a more systematic way that you would like to go, supervisors.
Oh, I think that's fine. Just go down the list.
Okay. And just to call out one who I know has been working in the background quite a bit, hasn't said much herself. I'm gonna ask Deborah Edelman to comment on some of the work that the RCD is doing in partnering with tribes and other local agencies to advance some water resiliency projects. So Deborah, welcome
Hi.
to the program.
Thank you. Thank you. So yes, we have been working as an outgrowth of the funding workshop that we put on in conjunction with the county. We were approached by a tribe to advance a grant application on their behalf, which we will be doing through the Small Community Drought Relief Program.
Okay.
That will probably be within the next few weeks. And we've also put in a grant. We also submitted a grant proposal for the Urban Multi-Benefit Grant through North Coast Resource Partnership, which it has been selected to advance. So that will be for gray water and rainwater harvest workshops and demonstration projects. And we are continuing to get calls to assist other entities in developing projects and answering questions, which has been very gratifying. And that's about all I have to report right now.
Well, that's good news.
Yeah, and Deborah, you're also really active in the water monitoring for Ukiah Valley Basin Sustainable Groundwater Management Agency as well, aren't you?
Yes, yes. So the RCD is doing monthly groundwater elevation monitoring in the Ukiah Valley Basin. So that is providing additional data through a drought on how the groundwater responds under drought conditions and now under rainfall conditions. And although I do not analyze the data, I just give it to the county to have the consultants analyze it. I can say it's providing some really interesting data about how the groundwater elevation responds. Data we've never had before. So that's really, really exciting.
Yeah, I think so too. So, and we're assuming that everything's good, but now we'll actually have some numbers to know how much fluctuation we get when we
Exactly.
through really dry periods and then followed by good rainfall.
Absolutely.
Can I ask if those data will be like, how will they be presented? Will they be available for like public to monitor groundwater levels in various ways, or what's the plan with that?
That's a great question. The CASGEM data is publicly available. Now that the groundwater sustainability plan has been approved, there'll be a new system that is going to be implemented for recording the groundwater data. And I don't know what format it will be in terms of what's available to the public, but I can, when I start submitting to that, I can report back.
Great. Well, I think, yeah, it just, help with kind of water literacy generally, and people be able to kind of, also get excited by watching those water levels hopefully go up and not down. But I'd also just like to acknowledge Deborah and her teamwork this past drought year. She's been a real key player. She and the team at the RCD with Joe Scriven and others there, but Deborah in particular has been instrumental in pulling together with a small team our weekly newsletters, and really just being a solid resource for the community and the different agencies and local organizations that we dealt with. Was a key player in putting on the funding workshop, and has really helped the tribes in particular, move some of these smaller projects and get them funded, or at least in line for funding, and connected with the North Coast Resource Partnership bundled grant application. So I just wanted to acknowledge that, Deborah, and appreciate your input and contribution towards helping us get through the year.
Thank you, Josh. It's a pleasure.
Okay. And let's see, moving right along, we already heard from the sage of the Russian River, but we'll bring her back in for a little bit more full update on what's happening at the Russian River Flood Control District. Elizabeth, if you wouldn't mind, maybe you could highlight to some of the where you're headed with this groundwater recharge concept, and talk a little bit about that, among other key data points I'm sure you'll bring to the conversation. So Elizabeth Salamone. She says we have to let her into the meeting. So let's see if there she is. Okay, great.
Hello?
Sorry, a little bit of lag.
Oh, no
That's
worries.
all right.
Can you guys can hear me, I take it?
Yes.
Well, it doesn't give me an option to turn my camera on, Josh. So there you go. That's the issue. Okay, so yes, the Flood Control District is putting together a grant application under the Urban Multi-Benefit funding from DWR. I might not have all the words in that. I thought you were going to ask me about something else, so I have to bring up my report on that. But
well, hey, you have the floor, so tell us what you want to talk about for a few minutes here.
I was just going to talk a little bit about the water supply or lack thereof
Oh, yes,
for
that would be a
the
good one.
Russian River.
Mhm.
As many of you know, the power generation bank at the Potter Valley Project powerhouse is inoperable, and the costly and lengthy repairs will not be made for this winter. What's typically around, I think it's around 270 CFS transfers to generate power and etc., will be reduced to only what's required for their in-stream flows, which is about 45 CFS, and to meet their contract requirements with Potter Valley Irrigation District. In short, that means we will be receiving thousands of acres less of what's normal inflow from the byproduct of power generation. This is going to essentially cripple Lake Mendocino and the Russian River, Upper Russian River water supply. Really, our saving grace will be rain and capturing as much of that as possible in Lake Mendocino, in the ground, in any receptacle anyone can find, essentially. So water, we are working with PG&E to ask for them to send over any kind of surplus flows from the Eel River that they can and will. This is a little bit tricky due to political issues, but we are slowly working our way through that. And by we, I mean pretty much any water supply organization in the Russian River watershed, both Mendocino County and Sonoma County. If anyone wants more information on that, you can contact me at districtmanager@rrfc.net. So what the district is doing is we're looking at ways to build our resiliency. We have a potential reservoir site in the Hensley Creek watershed that we are working with the California Fish and Wildlife and the State Water Resources Control Board to establish the feasibility of development. Hopefully we'll know more in a few months. We are also, as I said, applying for a grant, and the grant will be for on-farm groundwater recharge under the the title of it is On-Farm Groundwater Recharge Multi-Benefits Project. This will include extensive monitoring network of groundwater wells and stream flow gauges, etc., in the Upper Russian River in the Ukiah Valley Basin mostly. That will benefit some of the GSA work, but also hopefully increase the base flows back into the river to delay the need for releases from stored water of Lake Mendocino. We have a few other things going on. If you check out our website and go to our meeting materials page, there are staff reports there that kind of go over the current water supply and some of our responses at the district. Supervisor Hashtag, did you have a question for me?
Yeah, I do. Thanks,
John.
Elizabeth. So with the PG&E transformer not working properly, and so what is the maximum amount of water that can flow through from the Eel to the Russian River Basin?
I've heard it quoted anywhere from 120 CFS to about 140 CFS that is physically able to be diverted through the bypass system. And the reason they have to use the bypass system is because they can't send it through the main system, because that's where the power generation would happen, and they can't send it through if the power generation isn't happening. Some people have said, can we just take out the broken machinery and run as much water as possible through there? You know, potentially, but at the moment there really isn't. PG&E is in a really sticky situation. You know, they don't want to be sued, and they want to be supportive to everyone. So they're looking at some options that they have legally and politically to move forward.
Okay, well, thanks. So it sounds like about a third of what potentially could run through there is running through at this point.
Right now, only about 50 CFS is coming through, I think. Don't quote me on that, I'm not sure, but 45 CFS is what is the minimum in-stream flow requirement for the East Fork. I think it's 40, plus they send about 5 CFS as a buffer. And I think Potter Valley Irrigation District is getting about 5 CFS right now for stock watering. No irrigation, obviously, but I'm not. And again, I have, you know, those might be old numbers. I'm not sure if they're current today.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Glenn, did you have something?
I do. So at the present rate of diversion, how much water would actually go through the project if it's not increased? Has anybody calculated that?
I don't have those calculations right in front of me. Yeah, I'd have to look into that. I know I have it somewhere, but I don't have it at hand.
Thank you.
Anything else, Josh?
No, thank you for the update, Elizabeth. And I think it goes without needing to be said, your you know, knowledge and focus on the Russian River and all things Lake Mendocino, Potter Valley, up and down the inland area on the North Coast. It's just a huge asset for the region to have somebody focused on this like you, and appreciate all that you've been able to bring to this process as well over the.
Well, thank you, Josh. I appreciate that. I want to make it clear that this is a team effort. There are many people that don't, you know, that you're not hearing from. They're all all kinds of representatives from water users in the upper and lower Russian River watershed. And we are working tirelessly to figure out how to protect the water supply as much as possible for the human health and safety and the environmental flows, short term and long term. And one of the things we're doing is we do have a process for developing voluntary conservation agreements for 2022. And again, if you go back to my staff reports on our website, that will be helpful. And I just encourage anyone to reach out if they have questions. Thank you all.
Thank you.
You.
Okay, well, going down the list, I see that Howard is there, but I'm going to assume that Howard has said his piece. I know he's a man of few words and lots of action. So unless, Howard, you have something that you want to say again here and signifying by raising the old hand, I'll move down the list. And I see it looks like we have two representatives from Covelo here together, Isabel Lemieux and Jessica Stoll-Otto. So Jessica's been our most dedicated participant, but perhaps Isabel would like to say something as well.
Hi, yeah, thank you. Just wanting to kind of connect here. I haven't been able to attend these meetings in the past, and Jessica's consistently represented us so well that I really appreciate it. We just had our most recent monthly meeting, and we're hoping to get in with the Urban Multi-Benefit Grant through DWR. Currently working on partnering with the Round Valley Indian tribes to put together a proposal. They've already have begun work on a groundwater vulnerability assessment in our area, and the district is really interested in doing something similar. So our goal is to partner with the tribe to get that funded through the DWR multi-benefit grant relief money.
Great.
And yeah, it's exciting. Hopefully we can get something together in a short time frame.
Yeah, and as I'm aware, we have been, through Jessica's steadfast advocacy, and I know the supervisor's concern for the whole county. We've been thinking about Covelo in the scoping out of this urban multi-benefit drought relief proposal that Larry Walker and Associates are putting together as well. So hopefully there's some coordination that can happen so that there's efficiencies and less no competition, let's say, between the two proposals. I see that Supervisor Hashak has raised his hand.
Well, that's exactly the point I was going to bring up is, are we making sure that there isn't conflict or competition, because it sounds like there's some overlap in what we're trying to do. So I just want to make sure that the different parties are talking to each other or whatever needs to happen to make sure we don't have a problem going forward.
Yes, I'd love to network as much as possible. Yeah, so just is there?
Izzy, maybe you could talk to Howard DeShiel or the people at Larry Walker Associates. I don't know, maybe Howard has some guidance on this.
I will do that.
Great. Are we going to hear from Jessica tonight, or are you going to be the representative for Covelo?
I'm willing to be the representative, or if Jessica has something to add, I would love to hear from her as well.
I don't really have to add. I'm happy to see the district here too, kind of networking, and I look forward to hear. I'm really grateful that I did hear that Round Valley is being considered in Howard DeShiel's scope, as he just mentioned, and thanks for sending us those links so we can make sure things are coordinated, because one way or the other, we need some focus up here. So I appreciate all your attention to our community.
Great. Thank you, Jessica and Izzy, for your work on that.
Yeah, I would just add that it is important to, from the standpoint of the folks who evaluate the grant proposals, that there is evident coordination at the local level on these proposals. So oftentimes, if there's two competing proposals from one locality, that sort of ends up being a negative on both proposals. So really, it's to everybody's interest that you're collaborating and communicating on these activities. So thank you both for being here, and I know the community in Covelo, whether they know it or not, owe you some thanks for standing in and really advocating for them consistently over this year. I think without it, I know while Supervisor Haschak would have been an advocate, probably not as consistently and focused as you have been. So thank you for that.
So Josh, just to make sure we're clear on this, what do you think the next step should be for Jessica and Izzy in regards to these, to make sure that there is coordination?
Well, I think what's been set up here, this, Howard and his team are managing this contract with Larry Walker. So there should be, I would expect, direct communication between the water agency people and the Larry Walker team with the folks in Covelo to just look, read the same documents and understand if there's overlap, and or if there's opportunities, to reference each other's proposal in the context of demonstrating coordination. So if they're not directly proposing the same thing, but they're proposing kind of different activities that might benefit together, that's an okay situation as well. But they just want to then be able to reference one another and say, we're aware that this proposal is going in, and so on. So yes, the direct kind of connection and phone calling, emailing would be what I'd recommend.
Okay, so Izzy, is that something, could you connect with Howard DeShiel on that?
Yes, I can.
Okay, great. All right, thank you.
All
Thank you.
right. Thanks for being here. There's others on the call here. I know, being that we heard from Deborah, Joe, I'm gonna say that we've heard from the RCD. Joe Scriven's on the line, but we know that he and Deborah are in close alignment. I'm seeing two Johns, and I know both of them like to have something to say. John Almeida from the public side and John Smith from the city of Fort Bragg. So maybe we'll give John Almeida the chance, since his last name begins with A, and John Smith is later in the alphabet. Mr. Almeida, how are you tonight? Do you have comments from East Willits? Looks like you're still on mute. Oh, there you go.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, welcome to the program.
Thank you. Yeah, I got a couple of comments and questions. I'm thinking about if PG&E is going to abandon power production, how about FERC releasing the ownership or the regulatory end of it to the DWR so we can be within the state? Both these rivers are within the state, have more local control. So
yeah, that of course is the question. So right now the water right for the Potter Valley project is to generate electricity, even though the water is of course California water, but the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission is in charge of all aspects of water moving from the Eel River to the Russian River Basin. So that's what we're all wondering is what happens if the license is surrendered. We still retain water rights, which of course is the most desirable thing for Mendocino County. Electricity that's generated from there, we could probably find another source of, but the water we can't. So that's the big question, and going forward, that will have to be answered.
well, I guess what I'm saying is, how about requesting that, like Assemblyman Wood, because I know he's interested in this, would take this on as a project to try to move the Regulatory Commission out of the federal end of it and move it to a state level, being these waterways are within our borders of California, and we could have more local input instead of having the feds involved.
You know, you're thinking just like the politicians are, because that's exactly what's going on. Is discussions are happening now with the Mendocino Inland Water Power Commission and also Sonoma County Water Agency are in discussions with the State Water Resources Control Board and Department of Water Resources to see if that's something that's feasible.
And then my other question is that for the town of Mendocino, have they thought about maybe doing like Fort Bragg's doing, and I don't know if they could get permission or not, but using water from Big River, maybe in the brackish area where most of it's already been used and heading out to the ocean, and have some type of water system so they could have their own water system, because Big River is one of the bigger rivers in this county anyway.
I mean, look at its name after all. But yeah, you know, I can just, there's probably some other folks from Mendocino on the call, but if I might, I could just let you know that, you know, we have had, we are aware that the Mendocino Community Services District is pursuing their own grant proposal for some pretty substantial work, including water storage, water source evaluation, and other strategic activities, as well as they've benefited, I think, from the attention of some of Senator McGuire's time recently. So I think that there will be activities. You know, Mendocino was a one of the poster children of the drought this year, and that not only showed up in the press, but it really, I think, galvanized a lot of local action. I know a number of the folks at the Community Services District are pretty focused and engaged in trying to make things happen out there. So I don't know, supervisors, do you have more to add on that?
No, because of the strangeness of the Brown Act, we can't really engage Supervisor Williams specifically. So we're more likely to hear from things from you than we are directly, unless we approach the Community Services District.
Yeah. So, but you know, I think it's to everyone's interest, most of all the residents of Mendocino and their guests, to have improved situation with water out there. So that is, you know, high on the radar. And I think our next speaker, Mr. John Smith from Fort Bragg, while he does represent the largest municipality on the coast, they also have been really a lifesaver for Mendocino. Different points, a supply point for their water, and a place for tapping into municipal infrastructure. So, John, do you want to give us a little update on what's happening in Fort Bragg relative to the water supply and water infrastructure and so on?
Sure, happy to do that. And good evening, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
You never know. Sometimes you're on mute. Yeah, we're obviously very happy to see the rain coming. Our river's up to, well, it was almost up to 2,000 CFS, which is good. It flushes out the river, gets some of the growth, and rolls those rocks, which is important too. So we were happy to see that flush happen today and yesterday. But as far as projects, most of you know we've got about 17 million in applications into the DWR. We just got the PS&E for our water tank rehab, which is another 1.1 million. Beyond that, we've got another 55 million to go after that. So we're going to keep running down the list. Probably our highest priority as far as next projects is we're looking for 200 acre feet of storage for water. That'll come in the way of reservoirs. Not sure if we'll split that up. We're still trying to be mindful of seismic activity here along the coast. One large reservoir might not be the right thing. If you have some sort of weakness in that system, and we just don't want to spill all our water all at once. So we might break that up into multiple reservoirs. We'll work with the engineers on that to take a look at how to best move forward with that project. We still need some land too, so we're looking at a couple of pieces of land for that as well. So a little more challenging there. As you know, along the coast, we have a lot of sensitive habitat and so on and so forth. So environmental portion of that will be rather in depth. So yeah, we certainly have a lot of rehab to do from our system. You know, it's a lot of our water lines and sewer lines are 70, 80 years old. So we just want to be able to withstand that earthquake when it comes as well. So we're looking at it from a drought perspective and also just minimizing damage for seismic activity. So yeah, I think we're on the right path. Just finding that kind of money is challenging, but we're up for the task.
Supervisors, do you have any questions or comments for John?
I do have a question for John. As you had your first kind of experience with a desal, and I just wondered how it went.
Yeah, so the timing was interesting. We actually got some rain, I think probably a few days after we received the unit. So we were able to get some salt water run through the system probably for about 3 days. And it performed very well. NTUs were very low, 1 to 2 NTU. So it performed as expected. The requirement was 200 gallons a minute. And really the brine discharge was 22 gallons a minute. So right at spec, what we expected. So performed very well.
Mm-hmm. And also, just to let everybody know the difference. So what was the minimum flow you had this summer in the Noyo River?
We had to do our own measurements. That's how low it was. The USGS gauge just didn't provide the right information. Anything below 1 CFS, it has a hard time measuring, as you can imagine. We were down at least a half CFS.
And then you said it was 2,000 CFS yesterday?
Yeah, this morning. Yeah, yesterday night or this morning it was 1990, something like that. Just below 2,000. So.
Yeah, so this is a good example of why we need to be able to store water at high flows, because that certainly is how you build water security.
Sure, and as far as like Fish and Wildlife, they would prefer that also, that we're not taking water from the river when it's that low. We want to be able to give as much water to the fish as possible. So if we can store the water at this time of year, that would be beneficial to not just us, but the critters too. So do that.
Okay, thank you.
Of course.
Supervisor Haschak, anything from you?
Well, certainly this desalination is something that we've pursued, and I was just wondering if it's feasible to transfer that kind of system to other parts of the coast that might need it. We talked about with that person that we had that meeting with about having units in different locations along the coast. So I was wondering if John Smith thought that would be a feasible way of going.
Well, it's interesting. I've actually had quite a few calls from different agencies along the coast, not just here in California. It's a little bit more challenging to get to that brackish water point. Our intake is about 4.5 miles upriver. So really you got to have some infrastructure from pretty far up, and it depends on the river and the flows and things like that. But in our case, it's about 4.5 miles. The folks in Oregon that I was talking to, I think they had a pretty similar setup as we do. They're pulling from a river, and it's quite a ways up the river as well. So they might benefit from that. The other part of that is the discharge of the brine. We have an ocean outfall discharge, which is obviously very beneficial in this case because it's going back to the ocean. So it's possible, but you just have to get to that 2,500 parts per million. Ocean water is 34,000 parts per million. So you got to have some dilution there somewhere from something to be able to accomplish that.
Okay. Thanks.
Yeah. So, I guess this is my holiday cheer session because, again, I'll acknowledge John Smith. John has been just a dedicated participant in all of our ad hoc committee meetings. He's showed up to our early morning operation area partner meetings and has offered his kind of deep expertise, technical knowledge, practical knowledge pretty liberally. So, I think it's, just evident just from the folks here that, Mendocino County's got a rich water resource knowledge base that, I'm sure the folks from GEI and the other folks working in the region will recognize and be able to draw on to help, guide whatever comes next here. So, John, thanks for doing that and for being responsive and all of that over the year here.
Of course, and I likewise I appreciate the education from everyone else. So we're all learning every day.
Excellent. Okay, we're kind of moving down the list here, and I apologize if there's anyone who I missed in the alphabet who has something they would like to offer. You can we'll have a kind of hand raising session here at the end. Next on the list would be Judy Morris, who is a team from the executive office at the county, who has been our key connection point for me and helping coordinate things on the back end with getting us on agendas and so on, but also is very knowledgeable in water resource, particularly related to the North Coast Resource Partnership, for which she was the executive director for many years, or some other formal position. You might correct me, Judy, but I didn't know if you wanted to say anything here, or perhaps with a focus on that, the North Coast Resource Partnership, or any of the topics we've been covering. This is my Socratic method of an ad hoc committee.
Judy, you're on mute, I think.
Yes. Okay, well, we'll just say the cat's got Judy's tongue, and we'll move on. If you get inspired, Judy, please raise your hand, and we'll bring you back. So the last official person I see on here there's Judy. She's back. Look, her hand's raised. Okay.
Sorry, I had a little fire I had to put out.
Not unusual, but you're in action. So please.
Yeah,
So
we worry about that when we hear that, because you're from Trinity County, and I think your place did almost catch on fire, didn't it?
Well, it was creeping around this last summer. I'm lucky others weren't so fortunate. So I'm sorry. I truly was dealing with an issue that came up.
I just was referring to your experience with the North Coast Resource Partnership, and being that a number of our community stakeholders have kind of thrown in with their application. I don't know if it would be just worthwhile to reference for folks who may not be as familiar, kind of what they are and how they play a part in Mendocino's kind of water resiliency future.
Oh, sure. So the organization has been around for well over 10 years and makes up 6-7 counties in tribal representation. Certainly Mendocino County has a seat at the table with 2 of our supervisors. And its history has been drawing down on, it started as an IRWIMP, as many of you are probably aware. And then the name was changed, 5-6 years ago, roughly. And so a lot of the projects have been funded under various propositions. I'm thinking going back to Prop 50. Now, most recently has been Prop 1. And so certainly that whole area and so Sonoma North is included in the footprint of North Coast Resource Partnership. So Sonoma, Mendocino, Humboldt, Del Norte, Trinity, Siskiyou, and part of Modoc.
Okay.
And so it really represents quite a footprint and follows quite a watershed. As we used to say, this region is the lungs and of the state, and the water delivery source point for the region and the state of the much of water that comes out of this footprint that I just described. So we look at doing green and gray water projects. I should say they do now. I just recently left them as chair, so it's still fairly fresh in my mind. They fund green and gray water projects over the years to the tune of, I don't know, over the roughly $90 million in the last 10 plus years. So from very small community water projects, I'm sure many on this call have had a project maybe funded or has applied in the past. The state views this organization and the way they fund projects quite as the gold standard. There's quite a review process with the technical review committee and the policy review committee, which elected leaders are part of that policy review committee. So they bundle projects, as you know, because a lot of times even a county doesn't have the capacity to help get these projects applied for or fund them or manage the project. So Humboldt County also does the administration of much of the grant that both at the large level and then individual level projects. So it's really an amazing collaborative effort. There, as you know, folks have applied through most recently bundling with NCRP under urban. And I think, as I mentioned before, there's a 50% advance payment when bundled through NCRP versus the 25%, if I'm recalling this correctly, for those who are applying directly on their own. So that's a nice little bonus because it's certainly recognized there's a lot of smaller partners who just can't cash flow many of these projects. We saw that happen, I think, under Prop 84. It was really quite a struggle to cash flow some of this stuff. So, and I think they have a cap of $5 million on this last for urban, if I'm recalling correctly. So at about $2 million of a chunk, if I can be technical about it.
Right.
So I'm happy to hear that entities out of Mendocino County have used this avenue. They have a little different process if they haven't already gone through it. But so that's kind of the overall makeup of NCRP.
Excellent. Supervisors, do you have any questions or comments for Judy?
No, I'll just say that Judy's been very helpful in educating me on that process. So it helps to know how to do that and what the purpose of NCRP is.
So just for people who don't know Judy's background, she also was a supervisor in Trinity County, which I guess is kind of a part-time job. But it's not, because you have a lot of work to do. And she is a deputy chief executive officer here at Mendocino County, and she's been assigned to be kind of the den mother for the supervisor. So we really, really appreciate her trying to coordinate our complicated ad hoc committee schedule. She works a lot with Supervisor Haschak and me to sort things out so that we make our meetings, and we really like working with her.
Yeah, it's been great getting to know everyone in Mendocino County, of course, staff and the supervisors and members of the public that have worked with in this short time. So anything I can do on NCRP, if anyone has any questions, feel free to contact me.
Excellent. Thank you, Judy. Much appreciated.
Thank you, Josh.
Yep.
Sorry for my delay.
No worries. Okay, I was just saying that I see one official and one representative from our hospitality world, and so maybe at risk of calling anybody out who wasn't planning on saying anything, maybe Ken from the Joshua Grindle Inn, if you have anything you would like to add to the conversation, now's your moment. You can tell us how it's been on the coast with your water supplies out there, for example. I just saw the name Joshua Grindle Inn. I said, hey, that looks like a familiar name. So, okay.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I'm trying. Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, I got some good news. I had a water tank, rainwater tank, put in the end of September, 5,000 gallon tank. And after the most recent rains, it's completely full. So I have a secondary source of irrigation water now. And the long-term plan, it's something that I'm going to do, is to hook it up to the laundry and use that for washing the clothes of the inn, or the all the linens, and thereby saving my well water for use for the guests. And then we're going to take the gray water coming out of laundry and we're going to water the gardens with it. So that's kind of the big plan.
Right.
And so far the rain tank is full, and we're moving forward with the ozone. Going to put an ozone on the laundry so we can get rid of the requirement for hot water and soap, and it's going to try to really save the well as much as possible just for drinking and using for guests, and utilize all the rain and even the effluent that we're using out of the laundry as well, to push it all into our garden and hopefully recharge our own little well.
And did you have problems with the well functioning this year?
We did not. Although we did take all of the tub drains out, so people couldn't take tubs, because I found out they still were when we were in stage 4. We were asking them on the way in, so I just thought it would be a lot easier just to take the tub drains out, and no questions about taking a tub. I think that saved a lot of water. Our usage went down almost 50% from May to August, so that was a big help. I think it saved quite a bit of water for the well. And we're continuing to do that right now. So we're still staying with that. I think the water levels are coming up, but just not as high as they had hoped. So that's still good news. I've heard that there's some wells here that were dry that have now come back as well.
Well, that's a great story, Ken. I appreciate the work you're putting into saving water, and hope that's replicated 100+ times.
Thank you, and I'll keep you posted.
Yeah, and you represent California of the future, where we don't use water once and throw it away. We use it multiple times, and this is pretty exciting that we need to document these kinds of efforts so that we can show that as part of our sustainability and reducing carbon footprint, which is one of the goals of our strategic plan that Supervisor Hasjack and I are working on, that this is the kind of things that prevent gas generation, and this is yet another really great approach to being more environmentally friendly.
Yeah, my goal is to start putting more of the rainwater into the ground. We're going to start building some rain gardens on the property too. So that's the next phase. To really try to get that water to soak in here, but not let it rush into the ocean there.
Excellent.
Thanks.
Thanks, Ken, for the coming on and sharing that with us. Appreciate it. So last but not least, I see Sarah Finnegan, our Cal OES representative there. And Sarah, welcome to the program. Cal OES has been an active partner in the drought response this year. Sarah and her colleagues have been participating in a number of regular ongoing meetings and supported, getting things done. So Sarah, what can you say about the Cal OES operations around Mendocino's drought situation?
Hi, good evening all. Thank you for the introduction. Really just at this point, DWR and other state partners that you've been working closely with are the ones really leading the response operations and funding opportunities. We did, of course, get the CDAA, which was approved for state assistance, and that was a collaboration of all of the partners, your regional partners, local partners, sharing what their losses are with their county OES operation, Office of Emergency Services, and then pushing that up to the state. So as a collaborative effort of all the partners involved, that was able to get approved and go through, as you all know, and we're moving forward with those opportunities. So at this point, I don't have any new updates other than just to reiterate that it's a collaboration of local and state partners, as well as the nonprofits and others and tribal partners that are also impacted. So I just continue to be a resource for you to reach out if you need anything at the state level. I'm happy to help to advocate and push that information up, and continuing just to listen in. And actually, I'm appreciative of all the share outs and updates. It's great to see some of these projects come to fruition and start to make an impact. I realize we still have a lot more water that's needed in this area. I support both Sonoma County and Mendocino County. So between the two counties, I know this bit of rain we've had is just a nice beginning, but we still need a lot more so that we don't find ourselves in the same place next summer. And so at this point, let's just continue to work on that partnership. And I appreciate this opportunity to share.
Excellent. Supervisors, do you have any?
I just want to say that, first of all, Sarah, thank you for supporting us and helping us this past year. And our relationship with Cal OES, as much as we enjoy you, we wish it wasn't such a close one, but between water and fire, we've had quite the time here the last few years. And, we're really glad that you're there because we depend on you when things don't go right.
Thank you.
Very much
We'll
appreciated.
continue to be here when depending on what type of emergency happens. Hopefully it's another slower year in our region and coastal region, but we'll continue to be a support as needed.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Okay, excellent. Well, we have made it through our list, and we still have some attendees, which is great. We haven't lost everybody. I think it just speaks to the importance of the topic. And I do see that Judy maybe found her voice again. Maybe she has another. Is that a leftover hand up? Oh, look, she's here. Is that a new hand?
It's a new hand.
Okay, great.
I had a quick thought as all of you were talking. There is another phase 2 for NCRP under Prop 1 that hasn't been released yet, likely in the spring, and something for the Drought Ad Hoc Committee to think about. We could have them do a presentation on what will be eligible, what projects that make sense under that, once NCRP has all the information on this next second phase of round 2 of money.
And when is that, Judy?
Well, I don't think they have a date yet when that's going to be released. I think, this small water drinking systems and the urban benefit program is really taking precedent first.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think the information on the second round for their viewpoint, or at least how it applies to them, has even been released yet. So, but in the meantime, I think it might be wise to have NCRP staff just kind of give everyone an idea what that will look like in general terms, and just have that on everyone's radar to look to possibly apply.
That's a great point. You know, I think generally what it feels like, and it's not only with this activity that I'm involved with, but in the local governments that I'm working with around California, there's a bit of a strategic planning moment here that's happening, you know, as especially folks dealing with water, you know, and just to have the chance to, you know, get a preview, put something on an agenda and say, yes, we're gonna, you know, have that out there, and other opportunities like that to kind of be less reactive and more kind of proactive, and all of that I think would help. It feels like it would be a new dynamic compared to where we started, right? So that's great. I see Supervisor Hashak has a few things to say.
Yeah, I think that that's a great idea, and maybe Judy, you could help us plan for one of these meetings, just like, you know, Josh had the grant writing session. You know, maybe we could do an informational session on these, you know, the phase 2 of this, the Prop 1 money.
Yeah, we could do that, and I'll see what everyone's schedule looks like. NCRP certainly does rotate their meetings, and the next one is going to be in January, typically in Ukiah. But I think that will be a Zoom meeting, I've been told. Could change, but many of those meetings in the recent past have been Zoom. So that's another opportunity as well, but I'm sure the great staff at through NCRP will be happy to do a kind of a preview of the second round of Prop 1 funding.
That would be great.
Okay, well, that last couple items on our agenda are other items, and I would put that one under the other items category. And the other item is public comment. So we kind of blended our public comment into our regional updates. But if any member of the public would like to have a few minutes to say some more words, please raise your hand. Okay, seeing none, we'll bring it back. Supervisors, do you have anything further?
I just want to thank everyone for a very successful relationship working in this ad hoc Drought Task Force committee that we've had, and I'm wishing you to celebrate with bright lights the dark nights of winter in the way that you see fit. In other words, happy holidays, and look forward to working with you in the coming year, and hopefully we'll get a break weather-wise so that we aren't in as quite dire circumstances as we were this year.
Hear, hear.
Yeah, I would just say this ditto to what Supervisor McGorty said. You know, we did make it through some very difficult times this year. I appreciate all the work that everyone's doing on behalf of all the communities that you represent. And we worked together. I think we pulled out, really, we got through a real difficult time, and we got water to where it was needed. And I think we have a solid plan for moving into the future too. And it's not just praying for rain, you know, even though that's a big part of it right now. But you know, I anyway, wish you all happy holidays.
And last, I just want to thank working with Josh on this project. Josh is excellent staff. You know, he's professional to a T. He sweats all the details. He's organized, and fun to work with. He's got a great personality, and it's been a pleasure having him as our you know, consultant while we try to tee up our water agency and decide what we're going to do in the future. I hope that our future includes Josh.
Thank you, Supervisor. It's been my honor to work with you all.
All right. Thank you all very much, and happy holidays.